I'm going to start that. Okay, so we've got our recording going now, and for those of you just watching the recording who kind of missed the intro, I'm Karen Graham. I am a consultant helping Living at Home Network to get going on their database, and been really involved in the Databank setup, and want to show you today a little bit about how to use the Databank tool set to manage volunteers. And so we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about how to enter new volunteers into the system and how some of these tools can aid you with capturing information about volunteers. Um, Secondly, we will talk about volunteer stewardship. What I mean by that is kind of taking care of the relationships with volunteers, keeping them up to date, helping them feel appreciated and connected with the organization. And then the third thing is we'll look at services that are provided by volunteers and how to update things like their mileage and hours and that sort of thing when they have performed a service on behalf of the organization. And finally, we'll wrap up with some things on reports that are used by volunteer coordinators and volunteer managers, as well as executive directors or other people in your organization who might want to kind of see what volunteers are up to, be able to find lists of volunteers, things like that. So that's our agenda for today. I just want to peek back at some of the chat a little bit and see a little bit more about who's here. So I know we've got several executive directors here, and then some people who are in a volunteer or program manager kind of role too, or program coordinator. Oh, Rachel, you volunteer with the Superior Hiking Trail. Thank you for doing that. I have hiked about 200 miles of that trail, and I have always noticed just how tidy it is. And I know it takes a lot of effort to make that happen.
There's a lot of manpower involved in that.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of like boots and shovels. And I mean, there's no other way to get there, right? So it's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. If I lived closer, I'd probably be right there with you.
It's
Um,
fun.
Yeah, all right. And then just looking through here. Okay. Oh, and Esther also does Girl Scouts. I am not surprised somehow that you also play in a band. That's awesome. We've got a lot of musical people in this group, I think. All right. Church services, Meals on Wheels. Um, great. A lot of people involved in their church, it looks like as well, which is that's actually one of the main ways that I volunteer too. I do a lot of stuff through my church. So, well, good. Thanks all for being game to get into the chat and answer that question there. I think it just allows us to have a lot of simultaneous chatter with each other without having to take turns, which is kind of fun. Okay, I shared our agenda. I'm going to switch over now to something different. I'm actually going to just switch back to this kind of welcome screen. I have a little tiny play for you, I guess. Um, and I need to, you know what I did? I went and like deleted my script from my and I can't get this to work now. Hold on one second. You're gonna see a messy screen for a minute here. And okay, so we're gonna act out a little thing here, me and Asia, and we're gonna pretend that she is I don't know, maybe not Asia, something else. So she
Huh?
has just showed up at the Sample Senior Center.
Yes, I have. All right. So, hi, I'm here to pick up Chantal.
Oh, great. I'm the volunteer coordinator here. So it seems like Chantal had a really good time at card making today. You must be a friend of hers?
Yeah, I'm actually her neighbor and I just retired, so I'm trying to help her out with rides when I can. She really doesn't like to drive when the roads are icy.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, I think we actually have a few other people in your neighborhood who call us for help sometimes. I wonder if you would ever be interested in volunteering.
Actually, yeah, I've been looking for something to keep me busy.
Okay, how about if I get your contact information and then one of my coworkers will get in touch with you soon with more details?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so two choices. You can either step over to my desk right now and I'll put your information into the computer, or you could go to our website on your phone and fill out the volunteer interest form there. What works better for you?
I'll actually do the online form. Let me just make sure that I can find it here. Yep, here it is.
Ta-da! All right. Thank you for being game for that. So we just wanted to do that for everybody to get an idea of like what it might look like to capture information for a new volunteer now that you've got this tool set available for you. So what this person chose was to fill out this online form, and each of you either have one of these already or can have one, and we can help you set that up. And it can be branded for your organization. It can use your fonts and colors and things like that that you use on your website, and it can collect pretty much any information that you store in the data bank. So this one has name and address and so forth. And I'm actually going to just put in, I'm going to make up a name here. Let's say this is Barbara Swenson. I'm just going to put in the required fields. You could put in the other information there as well. And her email is fake Barbara at email.com. And then and this, wait, sorry, this is supposed to be invisible, so I'm gonna fix that. Every time I do this, I find a little thing that I need to tweak. And then she can sign up for newsletters and things like that as well. And then I've got a little security thing on here too. Oops, I didn't get all the boats. That's a boat. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you can choose whether you want that to show up or not. I had that off, and I think Maria actually turned it back on for me. So, all right. So then the next step is asking what days that she's available. This is something you can include on your form or not. You can skip any of this stuff if you want to. So I'm going to say I'm available on Monday anytime, and I'm also available on Tuesday. And you can fill out other information. And then when I complete this form, it gives me a thank you message, and it will also send a message to my inbox that says, Bruh, thanks for signing up to volunteer. We'll be in touch with you soon. In fact, I think I can show you that if I go to this kind of hides a little bit because of the Zoom menu. But okay, you're gonna see a little peek into my inbox right here. And did I? Oh no, because I filled in a fake. Never mind. You're not going to see that. I filled in a fake email address when I should have put my real one in there. But it will send you a message, or it sends the volunteer a message, and it also alerts somebody at the organization that a new person has signed up online. So wanted to share that with you as a brand new way that you can use the data bank to capture information about volunteers that are interested in talking with you. And if you decided, well, that's maybe like not quite the way I want to do it, I have to mess with this a little bit so I can see it and my menu at the same time. Then you could go into the portal and you could say, oh, okay, I have a new volunteer that I want to add today. I'm just going to go to my dashboard and put in the name of the volunteer here. And it's kind of the same information that was on my form, a little bit more detail here that you can choose whether you want to fill out at this time or not. And then kind of go through the steps to add that person in the portal. Now, I want to pause here because I know some of you, when you filled out the meeting registration form for this webinar, said that you didn't feel a high level of confidence in entering new volunteers in the data bank. And so I'm wondering what your questions are and what parts you're getting stuck on. And feel free to put that into chat or just unmute yourself and tell me right now.
I'm noticing that, and we just got ours up and running, but
Mhm.
we have some participants that are volunteers, and
Okay.
I don't know how to delete the participant and change it to a volunteer other than just manually entering. Is there a way to make that easier?
Yeah, you can change their contact type, which is I'm highlighting that right here.
Okay,
So, if they're marked as both staff and volunteer and now they're, not an active or sorry, not staff, participant and volunteer. Now they're not an active participant anymore, or they're not an active volunteer anymore. You just deselect the one that doesn't apply. Does that make sense?
that does.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
and
it's
that's a
Angel.
dashboard. Okay.
Just a question. We tried to do that last week after or on Friday, Stephanie and I were looking, and many of our volunteers are
Hmm.
listed as participants. In fact, I would say we have many more participants compared to volunteers on our list.
Hmm.
So I did try and go in to one of our volunteers and change it, but and I thought, and I had saved everything, but
Hmm.
it still is showing as that he's a participant.
That
So
happened to
Okay.
me too. Yep.
Okay.
it wouldn't save the changes that I did, and it wouldn't put him in the participant or in the volunteer category. He was still in the participant category.
Okay. That is probably something we can't handle right now, in the middle of class. But if you wouldn't mind, just putting that in the chat, like what organization you're with, so we make sure we have that captured, and then kind of just a little quick description of the problem. That'll help us get back to that later, and then we can help you figure out what happened there.
Okay.
Sound good? Are there other questions about how to enter volunteers? Not hearing any. Okay. Um, I'll just show you one more thing here related to that, which is I just showed you how to enter a volunteer in the portal. There are some things that are in the CRM, which is, oh, I'm going to just close this volunteer form for now, over here that might be a little bit different from what you see in the portal, that are in addition to what you see in the portal. So let's look for Barbara Swenson, who we just entered. And you'll see it has today's date and that she filled out the volunteer interest form right there in her activity history. So that's another thing that happens when people fill out those online forms. Um, it automatically puts them in the database. She's also in the portal. If I look at my list of volunteers here and search for Barbara, oops, if I have to spell her name right, um, why didn't she? Okay, I'm not sure why she's there, but because I know she is. Um, anyway, it'll enter her, in one place that shows up in the portal view and the CRM view. But if you are in the CRM, you just get a little bit more detail, like when you're editing her personal information. There are some things here, like preferred name, I think is maybe something that just shows up here. Um, Districts, things like that are in addition to what you see in the portal. So there's just a place to enter a little bit more info there. Um, Another thing that is kind of moving on to the stewardship level is this activity history can be really helpful for you to keep track of interactions with that person and even kind of to-do list items. So I'm not sure what your process is. I'd be curious to hear if it's drastically different from what I learned from the handful of organizations that I've talked to about this. But what I've heard is that a lot of people have a two-step process where first, they might get the volunteer's basic info, flag them as somebody who's interested, and then they might schedule a time to have a little more in-depth meeting with that person and learn more about their interests, sort of interview them in a way, provide more detail about your programs, figure out, kind of how to really plug them in. And so maybe after a first step like this, you might add another activity. I just clicked that little plus sign to add this. And let's say this is going to be, um, I'm actually just I'm gonna mark this as other, and assign it to me. This is my username in here. This is gonna be a visit, and I'm going to say this is going to be an intake meeting for a new volunteer. And so I could record that, and let's say that's happening tomorrow. Um, so that also gets added to the log of activity history for that person. And it's sorted in reverse order, so the most recent items are at the top. So that's a way that you can just record, like, left a message for this person about this thing, or a note like they are going to be in Florida this winter and they won't be available for this date range, or things like that are the kinds of things you might record there in the activities. Has anybody started using that at all? I'm seeing Rachel's head shaking. Um, Corey did. Okay. Corey, I'm curious, what have you used that for?
Um, exactly what you just kind of talked about, just an interaction. Just so because otherwise we were using a notebook to kind of do logs on what we interact with people. And so
Mm,
I thought I saw the activities thing, and so an easy way for us to just see what we've done with that person throughout time. Yeah, so activity, interaction.
yeah, great. Um, I'm going to show you a couple more things, and then I want to pause for everybody to have a chance to practice this a little bit and then see what further questions you have after you try it out. So, I'm going to show you something really quickly, and it won't be slow enough or detailed enough for you to really learn how to do this, but I'm just going to kind of demonstrate this and just know that there's other training on this. So what I want to show you is how to create an event, a volunteer appreciation event, and then register people for it. When you are ready to create your own events in the data bank, if you don't already know how to do that, go to the help menu, and then go into either the support center, where you'll find some tip sheets and recorded training and things like that on how to manage meetings and events in the Databank CRM, or you can go to why isn't that you can go to the training, which is showing up lower on my screen, but um, and there are occasionally live training sessions hosted by the Databank staff on how to set up meetings and events as well. I'm going to make this a little bigger again. But let me just show you real quickly how you would do that. I'm going to go to add a meeting under the meetings menu and then start filling out the meeting name and the date and where it is and when and all that kind of stuff. And let me actually flip to one that's already filled out so you don't have to watch me do that. So here's volunteer appreciation, cookies with Kathy. And this is the same screen that you would see when you're creating a new meeting. So you'll see it's got all the different details about that meeting, the location. It's got a little message about the meeting and so forth. And then there's a bunch of other options, like you can do payments if you wanted to, whatever. But if this is a volunteer appreciation event, probably not going to do that, right? So now that I've got this meeting set up, if people start um, well, actually, let's do invitation first. Let's say I want to invite all of my volunteers to this event. I'm going to do a search to find my volunteers first, and their contact type is in personal information. So I'll go to personal, zoom down to contact type, which is sometimes hard for me to spot. Here it is. Okay, so contact type is right here, and I'm going to go includes volunteer. This should find anybody who has that little box checked. And I'll find all those people. I've got 30 volunteers in this sample data. And now I can go to my communication menu and I could run mailing labels to send them a postcard to invite them. I could also do a mail merge to send them a special letter, or I could send a power mail message. And I think I've got one saved in this. Oh, where is in the e-news folder? Yep, right here. I've got a little sample invitation here, which is, very simple. Hopefully you'd have something a little bit nicer than this, but this is an email message that I can send. And if I go to publish this message, it will send it to the mailable contacts in the current selection. So that means all those 30 volunteers that I chose for through my search, but it's going to take out 7 of them because either they don't have an email address or their email address is marked as a bad email address and it's not deliverable, or they've requested not to receive email. And so they're marked as do not mail. Those are the reasons why they might not get it. But the other 23 people would get that message from you. And then when they, let's go back to that message again. When they click RSVP, it's going to bring them, is this going to, yeah, it brings them to this calendar form where they can fill out their contact information and sign up for the event. Now, I tested this out the other day, and what it did when I got it in my email inbox is when I clicked on this, it pre-filled all my contact information because it knows who I am and it sends me a custom link that privately fills in or like securely fills in my contact information here. So I don't even have to type stuff into the form. I can just hit continue and go on to the confirm the registration. Um, so I know that was kind of fast, but I wanted to show you that that is something that's possible. Other way you might get registrations for something is people will call you, right? Or they'll just stop in. They'll be at an event. They'll be stopping in your office for one reason or another, and they'll say, "Oh, can you sign me up for that event?" Or maybe you'll initiate that with them. So um, in our um, in our portal, I can also say, okay, I'm gonna look up, who do I want to look up? Let's just say Bettina. So Bettina stopped in and I'm gonna go to her record and look at her meetings, this tab right here. And then I can see that she's already signed up for 2 game nights. Now I'm gonna confirm her for the volunteer appreciation event as well. That's all you have to do. It gets added into her record. And one last step to that is if I go, let's see, I want to be in here. If I go back to the Databank CRM and look at my meeting list again, um, then for any of these active meetings, you can see a list of people who are registered. So, and there's a little delay um, with getting this updated from the registration I just did from Bettina, but you'll be able to see the list of everybody who's signed up. And then as they show up for the event, you can mark them as fulfilled if you want to, so that you know that they actually attended, or you could mark that person as no show for that event if that was the case, right? So a bunch of different ways to manage volunteer attendance at group events. All right, that was a lot. Let me stop there. And I want to suggest that I just give you a couple minutes to practice a few things. One is just if you're at this level where you're still kind of struggling with the basics and trying to figure this out, maybe you just got access to the data bank a week ago, maybe just go into your portal and click new volunteer and practice entering somebody and just, make somebody up, make up a fake person, and just remember to delete them later when you're all finished with that and see if you can, make it through that process. If you already feel confident with that, then another thing to try would be going into, let's go back to Barbara here. Go into one of your volunteer records in the Databank CRM and practice adding an activity in their record. And see how that works. Take that for a little test drive. One more thing you could try is if you already have meetings or events set up in the data bank, then try looking somebody up and registering them for one of those meetings. So those are a few things you can try. I'm going to shut up for a minute and just see what questions roll in, either in chat or unmute yourself and let me know what you're getting stuck on. Oh, Corey, you're taking off. Thanks for coming. Always good to see you. I'm seeing a lot of very like studious looks of concentration. So this is good. Any questions so far? In a minute, I'm wondering if I can just go around the room a little bit and call on a few people and see like where are you at with this? What questions do you have? All right. Rachel, do you mind if I call on you and see what you've been doing and what's going well and where you're getting stuck? Oh, I think you're on mute still.
For adding the new volunteer,
Hmm.
it only shows like email is the only thing required, but it won't let me. I did put a name and address in and stuff, and it doesn't let me do anything.
You put a first name and last name and an
Yeah,
email address.
yep, and I get to next, and it's not doing anything.
And are you in the portal or in the Databank CRM?
In the portal.
Okay. Um, but okay, I'm just gonna try
Oh,
that and see
it
what
didn't like
happens when you do.
it didn't like a fake email address. It needed a real one. If I put
Oh,
my work one in, it worked, but if I put
oh, okay.
like email.com or something like that, it didn't work.
It didn't like that. Okay. Well, all right. So if you have an email address or a correct email address, it does work though, or like
Right,
a
yeah.
real one. Okay. But I was successful with putting in a fake one, I think. So that's
I
interesting.
don't know.
Yeah.
Can I chime
Okay.
in on that?
Yeah.
Um, I would think, I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but I would think that if the email address is going to be fake, it at least needs to be formatted the way a normal email address would be formatted. So it needs to be like something at something dot
Mm.
something else. And so
Well,
if
I
it
did
didn't,
that.
oh, you did all that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. Um, so what did you put in exactly? I would just want to test this.
I put sample at email.com.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder why that wouldn't. I don't know.
That is odd because I know
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've definitely filled in tons of fake email addresses in these things.
right.
Hmm.
I've done that too. And so I'm like, oh, it's not working.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I have
We've
a
got a
quick
question from,
question.
oh, go ahead.
So I just went in and changed one of our she was listed as a participant. I
Hmm.
went in and I edited her to be both participant and volunteer.
Hmm.
But when I go into the volunteer category and search her name, she doesn't it doesn't show up that she's a volunteer.
You said
Should
you
she be in both categories?
you said you added her using the new participant form, but added the volunteer as a contact type.
Well, she she's not under our volunteer. She's under participant. She's listed as participant. So when I went in and I found her, then I went in to
This is going
edit
up
her
all this.
or I went in to edit it and
Hmm.
she's showing up as both volunteer and participant, but when I go into the volunteer tab and type in her name, she doesn't show up. Her name doesn't show up.
And this is in the portal, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So there's something on the back end where so checking that box, yes, it labels them as a contact type of volunteer, but it doesn't create a volunteer record for them on the back end. Um, and that's kind of what it's looking for in order to categorize them in there. So I'm going to make a note of this and talk with our team about that and see if that's maybe something that needs to be adjusted.
If they are both, should they show up in both categories?
Theoretically, yes. But again, checking that box for volunteer doesn't create the necessary data on the back end that triggers the portal to look for that person when you're in the volunteer section, if that makes any sense. I know that's kind of vague, but um, it's if you were to go into the Databank CRM and go to that person and go to their volunteer tab and enter some information there, that would then prompt the volunteer record, that data to kind of get created. And then it should show up in the
Mm.
volunteer section of the portal, which I know is a little convoluted. So again,
Yeah.
I'll take this back to my team and see what we think should be done about that.
Yeah. That sounds great. I don't know if did we even say who you are, Miles? Like maybe
No,
people are
we
wondering like,
didn't.
why is this guy?
It's true. Yeah, so my name is Miles. I'm one of the developers with the Databank. So that's why I'm chiming in on some of these technical things. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I
glad you could join us.
yeah, I'm glad that I could as well. I'm glad that it worked out because I'm curious to see how people are doing this, and it also provides real world examples of these sorts of things, so I can learn from this in a lot of different ways.
Great. We have another question from Kelly about uploading new volunteer paperwork and things like that. So I'm going to do that in the CRM. So let's pretend this is Barbara, your new volunteer. I'll go to her volunteer tab here,
Contact
and
participant volunteer.
then there are some places here where you can put in information about her driver qualifications and background checks, references, things like that are in here. And
But it still
I
isn't
thought there was a
showing,
spot in here where you
under
could upload a
volunteer.
document, but I'm not seeing that.
I
Why am
wonder
I
if it's
missing that?
happening with her mom. That's why we're only getting
Okay,
$3.
so there's not a place here to upload a
She's,
document, but you can
you're
make
at
notes to
every
reference where the
between
document
volunteer
is,
and
and you can also record,
senior
like
conservator.
did
It's
she
like they're
pass
all
this
listed
background
in
check?
as participants.
Um, does she have insurance that you've verified? Things like
Should
that.
even
So I hope that helps
become
answer that
progress
question.
reports for seniors.
Um, are there any other questions before we move on from this? Because I've still got two other things to show you. Not hearing any. Okay, I'm going to move on to just a couple more things. So the two remaining things we have here are looking at how to update services that were provided by volunteers, and then some reports. The service stuff is going to go pretty quickly. So let's say that you have you're trying to match a service to a person, and like here's an unassigned service, and I don't know, let's just like use our imaginations and say this actually requires a driver who has a DMV check that they have passed and they are available on Mondays. And we just want to double check that. And when you're in the portal, you're not able to see quite that level of detail or like filter volunteers for only the ones that have passed a DMV check or only the ones who whatever. It's just really relying on those volunteers approved roles to oh, this is not the volunteer, this is the participant. Sorry. Let me look at Chanel here. And so she has some interests in approved roles that are causing her, and actually I'll go into edit so you can see the here's her approved roles. Um, and so that helps us know what kinds of services she'll show up for as a possible match, right? Now in the Databank CRM, those roles also appear here in the volunteer staff table. But then in addition to that, you've got all this other information. So if I want to search for somebody based on those details, I'm going to do search the volunteer and staff information. And let's say I want to find somebody who has a DMV check which is, sorry, where the status is passed. And I also want to find somebody who's available on Mondays. So I'll do availability includes Monday. And when I set both of those things and click find, that'll show me a list of, it's only 3 people because it's just test data or sample data, but shows me 3 people for whom those 2 things are true. And so that's a way that you can, look for people who meet very specific criteria if you need to. Um, so let me know if you have questions about those searches. This is a pretty important skill, I think, for you to have in the data bank to just, in general, even if you're doing something other than volunteer management, to be able to just search for people by different criteria like that. So tell me your questions about that in the chat if you have them. I'm going to also show you a couple other things that relate to updating services. So let's look at our service requests here in the portal. And oh, this is already filtered the way I want. So the defaults might actually just show everything, but I'm gonna search for November 1st, 20. Oops, it doesn't like that. I typed in the wrong thing. Um, okay, stop. Okay, November 2021st, 2025 to November 30th, 2025. I keep accidentally hitting the wrong thing on my keyboard and it's getting mad at me. Okay. So I've got 4 services from November. And then I can go through and say, okay, so I need to contact these 3 volunteers. This one is listed as unassigned because its status is canceled. So that's why. So I need to contact Daisy, Harold, and Katie. And for each of them, I need to ask for their hours and their mileage for November. And then once I get that, then I can go into this service requests and edit them and say, okay, so for this one, Daisy let me know she spent 1.5 hours on this and her total mileage was 10.25. You might have your own um, rules about, how you enter those, and then save that. So that's just like a really simple way to kind of go back in and update hours and mileage for the month. Let me pause there. Questions about looking up past services, entering hours and mileage, that kind of thing? Okay. All right. I'll keep watching the chat for your questions. Well, let me leave. We've got about 15, 16 minutes left, so I want to move on to reports. So we did a little bit of searching before. I want to show you something cool about these search results. Remember, this was these 3 people who have DMV checks passed, and what was the other thing? And they're available on Mondays. You can actually customize what you see on this page by clicking this little gear symbol here. Not many people know this because it's not exactly like screaming at you on the page, but it's like I don't know, one of my favorite like best kept secret things about what you can do in the data bank. So if you wanted to say, you know what, I don't really care about seeing their address in the search results, I'm going to take address and just move it from the viewing columns to the available columns. And then, doesn't like that. Why won't it do that? Um, I don't know why it won't do that. It doesn't want to get rid of that one. Or maybe I want to see the company in there, so I can drag this one down and and then it has the company. And if I want to move it to a different spot over next to the name, then I can just drag it over and it shuffles the order, right? So this is kind of a fun way you can pick from anything that's in this top section and plop it in there. I like this actually for fundraising sometimes. There's some stuff like transaction total, which is the first. Okay. That's the the total amount. I don't, this is giving me a little bit of trouble right now. So I think I need to practice with this a little bit more and figure out what's happening. But anyway, the point is you can kind of rearrange what you see in your search results and kind of make yourself like a little report right there on the screen. Another way to report on this stuff on any like search results or any selection of people is to go into your report menu and there's this thing called custom table rosters that lets you build your own report based on any of those custom tables that we have built into the data bank that are specific to Living at Home Network. Uh, so I've got an example here, which is a volunteer and staff report that I think might be handy for you. And I can or Asia can help you duplicate this into your own database if you want to have access to this one as a starting point. You don't want to build it yourself. So this has the name of the volunteer, what roles they're approved for, is their onboarding complete, and if so, what date, when are they available, background check status, interests, and then this should actually have a better label, but it's got their address on here as well, so you can see what part of town they live in. If you wanted to modify that, um, then this is the interface that you use to modify it. I'm not going to go through this in detail right now because there's a whole separate training thing on that as well, which you'll find if you look around in the support center. But suffice it to say that you can adjust a lot of things that are on this report. It works a little bit like the sorting tool in Elderberry, if you've used that before, or some of the other Elderberry reports have some similar features where you can kind of choose what columns show up, what order they're in, um, things like that. So I just wanted to show you that. So um, to refresh your memory again or to review, go to reports, find the custom table rosters, and then you'll see a list of custom just like grid reports that you have built and you can edit them there or run them. You can also export those to like an Excel or a CSV file if you want. This will go back to my main report screen. Another one that I would love to show you is the service detail report. And I just typed in detail to kind of narrow my view so I can get to that quickly. This one will show you for any date range, and I'll just leave this alone, I guess. What are all the services that were delivered, and you can sort it in a bunch of different ways. So this is to filter it. If you wanted to see like only rides, you would check that. If you want to see everything, just leave it all blank. If you wanted to see only fulfilled items, or only canceled ones or whatever, you'd check one of those boxes. Only things provided by volunteers, not by staff. This is a way to filter that. And then when you show that report, it lets you group it by volunteer, participant, or service type. So I have it grouped by volunteer right now. And so each volunteer gets their own little section here. Here's Daisy's section. And you can see in that date range, Daisy did a ride for Mitsu. She did another ride for Mitsu on a different date. One was on November 17th, one was on the 2nd of December. And then Daisy also volunteered to help John Doe with some caregiver support. And if you think like, oh, this is too cluttered, there's too much information on here, you can just hide some stuff. Let's say I don't want to see the participant's date of birth. I don't want to see the participant's age. I don't want to see the number of units. See, when I'm checking those, it's making stuff disappear. And if I check age again, it'll pop back in there. Or maybe I want to sort it by in some different way. Maybe I want to sort the service date in the opposite direction. And when I click on those column headings, it changes the sorting within each section. So we've got Daisy's history here, Harold's history, Katie's history. If I switch the view to be by participant, then it's going to have the participant as the main person here. So now, Daisy's showing up more than once here because she's the volunteer. So here are all of the services received by Chanel, all the services received by John, all the services received by Mitsu in the same period. I hope that makes sense. It's a little like complex because there's a lot of information on here, different ways to sort it, different ways to display it. Um, and I would encourage you just to like experiment with this a little bit and kind of test out what it can do. With this data, if you're trying to do, I don't know, some kind of report to volunteers, or you want to get this into an Excel spreadsheet to make your own charts and graphs or calculations, you can copy the data. There's a button on the lower right where you can copy it and then paste it somewhere else. You can also export it as a CSV or Excel file. So I would like to, if you're logged into the databank right now, I would like to challenge you in our last few minutes to run this report and tell me if what you see is crazy and does not match the actual services you're providing, or if it actually is pretty accurate. And that will help us know like how much data entry do you need to catch up on? Where are you maybe missing things? This is actually, I think, a nice way to kind of check like, have your processes moved over to the data bank yet? Or are you still, maybe doing a lot of things on paper and then entering at the end of the month, that kind of thing? And Rachel's asking, is there a way to see descriptions in the service detail report? No, it doesn't go, I mean, it is called detail report, but it doesn't go quite to that level of detail. But if you do want to see the descriptions, you can do that in a roster report, which I showed you before. That will give you the option to include descriptions. It's just that the rosters don't have quite the same abilities to filter the information. What other questions do you have?
Can I take a second to address Angel's question about the volunteer?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, sorry, I was just double checking a couple things on my end. Um, but so the situation was Angel went in and changed a uh, participant contact type, unchecked the participant box, checked the volunteer box, and now they can't find the person at all in the portal. And yes, that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about how the correct data hasn't been created on the back end. But if you ever find yourself in that situation before we push out a fix, because we're going to address this, um, what you can do is go into the Databank CRM, find that person, go to their volunteer tab within their contact record and just enter in any information.
So here we can do
Yep.
that.
Thank you.
Let's say we're looking for me. Okay,
Ac-
so I'll be Karen Test. Go to the
mhm.
volunteer tab.
Yep. So first of all, if you're on this page and that volunteer staff tab is not lit up white, that means there's no volunteer record. That's kind of what the portal is checking for. So if it's gray, you can still click on it. You can go in and add information. And once you do that, then it creates their volunteer record, which then tells the portal to show them. So that's just kind of a filtering logic thing that we have so that it's not going to show too many people that are irrelevant in the wrong categories. Um, the one thing you also need to make sure is that if you're going through this process, you're in the CRM, just make sure that the contact type of volunteer is checked. It should be since you checked it in the portal, but just double check that it is. Um, and then that should kind of prompt that to sync over to the portal. Hopefully that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. But yeah, just like a little, and that's what happened to Barbara when I looked her up in the portal right at the beginning too, and I didn't see her. It was because that switch hadn't happened yet.
Yep.
Yeah, so just a little temporary workaround until I'm sure the data bank will address this and make it happen automatically in the future.
Yeah, it should. I want to know more about the form that you filled out to create Barbara's account,
Hmm.
because that should have happened automatically, but I want
Yeah.
to double check what form that was. We can talk about that later too.
Yep. Okay.
But that should have worked correctly.
Hmm. Great. Um, Yeah, well, and one more thing, while you're at it, if you want to try to coach me on like, was I using that? Wait, where is it? Oh, I just want to go to my current selection actually. This little gear thing, was I using that wrong or was it not working the way it's
I
supposed to? I'll follow up with somebody else on that if that's not your area.
Well, I don't think I'm the best resource for
Mhm.
that particular question. And B, I'll be honest, I was doing my diligence on my side to make sure that my answer just now about the volunteer record was accurate. So I wasn't 100% paying attention to what happened there.
Okay.
So sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, when I've used that before, it has worked a little bit differently and like
Okay,
more reliably than it did just now. So it might be just a temporary glitch with it, or maybe I did something wrong because I'm trying to hold a lot of information in my head at once right now. So I
for
will
sure.
look into that and make sure that that is all working the way we expect it to.
Okay, sounds good. And
Um,
sorry again for not paying close enough
no,
attention while you were doing it.
you're doing a lot too.
Well,
All right.
true.
Okay, so I think we covered everything we were supposed to cover here. We did entry new volunteers, some of the ways to like keep track of your volunteers and track activities with them, schedule events for them, invite them, that sort of thing. We looked at how to look at and update services provided by volunteers, how to search for volunteers that meet certain criteria, and then how to run a couple different kinds of reports on them. Um, we have a couple minutes left, and what I want to know from you is what else should I have covered here that is a question for you that we did not get to yet? Anything you want. Um, and meanwhile, I'm just going to show this. You'll get a copy of these slides from Asia later. That'll have a link to the Databank user guide supplement, the database resources, and it actually might throw in a couple other little bonus things before we share this with you too. Any final questions? I'm making a note to myself to try to include in the additional resources the Databank guide to custom roster reports and setting up meetings, because those were things that we went pretty fast on. Anything else? All right. Well, I think then right on time, or maybe 30 seconds early, we're going to wrap this up and let you get back to your rest of your work for the day. But thanks everybody for your attention and for your courage and learning something new. Um, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. This little tiny video is going to show you how to modify what shows up in your search results in the Databank CRM. When I did this on the webinar earlier today, I was doing it wrong. And so I'm going to just take another go at it. So let's say that we want to remove address. You just have to hold down on that. And then instead of just like putting it anywhere, you have to kind of put it in a place like don't let go of your mouse until the little red circle with the crossbar disappears, and then you can drop it out of there. And I also tried to move in transaction total, so I'll do that. I can't just put it anywhere here. I have to put it in the right order that I want. So I'm going to put that next to the transaction shortcut button. And this transaction total shows the amount of donations or other revenue that this person has brought to your organization over their whole history of whatever's recorded in the data bank.